The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.
David, are you are not into the superhero movies, the comic book movies, right? That's not your thing.
I don't like X-Men. I'm not into the Hulk, the Punisher, any of that stuff. I do like Batman movies, and I like many of the Superman movies. I can't get myself to care about Batman versus Superman. It seems very clear to me that Superman would win in that. I mean, Batman is just like a smart, rich dude. He's like a one percenter who has money and could buy gadgets and is pretty smart. But unless he can smuggle kryptonite into Superman's pants, I don't see how he would ever really stand a chance. Although I've never seen or read any of the Superman.
Hey, come
versus
on now.
Batman
Lex
stuff.
Luthor has put Superman in a few precarious situations, and Lex Luthor has no superpowers.
All right. Well, maybe I'm kind of kidding about that, but yeah, I really can't. Like,
Well, you better figure this the fuck out, Dave, okay?
Captain America and Supergirl and all these.
All right.
I just can't get myself to care.
All right, let me move on then, and ask you if you would care if these movies started being rated R. Would that be more interesting to you?
Would I be more likely to watch them?
Yes.
If I assumed that by virtue of being rated R, I would care more about the characters and storylines, then sure. But by throwing in swears and nudity, I don't know that I'm going to say all of a sudden I care about Batman versus Superman.
Okay. Fox, Deadpool just came out, and I haven't seen Deadpool yet.
Don't even know what that is. Is that a guy?
It's a guy. Deadpool's a guy, and it has a rated R. It's rated R.
Right.
This movie has had the biggest opening weekend of any superhero movie ever by far.
Inflation adjusted?
Inflation adjusted.
How sure of that are you?
It made like 115 million opening weekend. It's quite profound.
All right. Doesn't sound inflation adjusted.
I believe it's inflation adjusted. And some people are saying that this is because it is rated R and this appeals to more people, something like that.
I mean, historically, that's not true. Historically,
right.
The movies that do best are not rated R.
Yes. But are superhero movies different? Deadpool, not many people know who Deadpool is, but Deadpool still has a huge following.
Sounds like a death metal band.
In that world, yeah, it could be. In that world, I think Fox now says Wolverine 3 will be rated R, and now everyone's going to start going all in on rated R, and which is great because I think these should be rated R. I'm sick of
Spider-Man.
well, as highlighted in this article on Gizmodo, or is it IO9? Stupid advertisements. I'm sick of seeing Wolverine's claws pass through someone without a drop of blood, or stuff like that. It's just...
Oh, it's the violent stuff that will be more graphic. I see. Yeah, no, that's not going to make me care anymore. The same superhero stories I don't care about with added graphic violence is not going to be a winner for me. I hate to say it. It's just not.
Oh, it's not just that. Of course, you have more adult themes.
Oh, well, now you're talking. Okay.
Okay, because that's what this is really about.
Like people doing taxes and sort of dealing with wills and estates and stuff like that.
Yes.
Got it.
Yes. That's good. Having children, lots of breastfeeding.
That, by the way, I did not come up with that. That is from, I don't know how I still remember this, but that idea is from a Calvin and Hobbes that at this point is probably 25 years old, where Hobbes and Calvin are trying to figure out, looking at movie descriptions, what adult situations are. And I think Hobbes says to Calvin or vice versa, it's like adult conversations and figuring out about how to pay for college, something like that. You know what I mean? And it's for some reason that like that grain of an idea has stuck in my head for close to 25 years at this point.
Yeah, that's good. Anyway, I don't think this has anything to do with the movie being rated R.
Good.
I think this is, well, maybe number one because it was Valentine's weekend. Maybe that had something to do with it. It's just a different type of superhero movie because you have this wise-ass, always cracking jokes, kind of an asshole type character in Deadpool. And I guess people really like, what's his name who played Deadpool? Ryan Reynolds. I think people like him. I guess he's okay.
All right.
But I would like to see grittier, more realistic superhero movies. As unrealistic as superheroes are, let's at least make it gritty.
I will say I tend to like when I see I like movies oftentimes where it's a movie about scammers or subterfuge or international intrigue and espionage, whatever, these sort of cyberpunk movies. I'm into a lot of different stuff. When I see that it's rated R versus PG-13, it does make me think it's going to be a more entertaining movie because they can really just do it the way they, I presume, want to do it, and the way oftentimes the books these movies are based on were sort of envisioned. Whereas when I see, if I've read a book and it's like a really gritty cyberpunk book, and then I see that it's a PG-13 movie, my initial reaction, and this may not be fair, is they're doing sort of a soft interpretation of it. They're softening the interpretation, and it's not going to be true to what I understand to be the author's sort of idea of it. And this could be completely wrong. I mean, there's obviously tons of great PG-13 movies, but I definitely have that reaction where I see that it's rated R, I feel like they're taking it more seriously, and it's going to be unique and interesting in a way that PG-13 might not be.
I don't think that's unfair. In the examples you've given, I think that's it's fair to assume that might be the case and fear that because money is behind everything when it comes to Hollywood and these movies. And so, all right. Okay. China in making bonus show headlines again. This is pretty interesting. China is building the world's largest radio telescope. This thing is going to be almost double the size of the one below it. And the good news, the bad news is they're uprooting 9,000 people to build it. The good news is, as far as Chinese displacements go, 9,000 is really a small amount of people.
Right.
These
it's people, like one building.
Yeah. These people are given each person, I guess it's not each family, each person is given $1,800, the equivalent of $1,800 US to completely uproot their lives. Wonderful.
That's a lot more money there than it is here.
But still, that is less than half the average salary.
Fair enough.
It's China. It's the Chinese government being a shit government, as usual.
But when the average salary in the U.S. is like $45,000, we have to think of it as sort of the equivalent of getting $22,000. It's still not a lot if they're saying you're moving out of here, you're out, you have no choice. But we have to think about it more as $22,000 in the U.S. rather than $1,800, right?
Great, let's do that. Okay. So you no longer have your home.
Right.
You can go anywhere. Here's $20,000.
Right. Still insane.
Okay. How does that?
But it's less crazy than $1,800. That's all I'm saying.
Even here.
Yeah.
That would be completely insane.
Except in the parts of the country where you can get a house for 20 grand.
Where would that be?
I don't know. I've heard they exist though.
I don't think so.
No. I recently spoke to someone from Ohio who says there's parts of Ohio where $15,000 gets you like a three bedroom ranch.
Maybe you're thinking of Detroit.
I've not looked into it myself, but this is what I've been told.
Okay.
Thank you.
And would you want to live in those places is another question.
I live where I live by choice. Let me just say that.
Okay. Anyway, I think we can say with certitude that if the government said they are taking your property and gave you $20,000,
I'd lose it.
You would be in a very bad position.
Right.
Okay. Thank you. But why are they building this? Aside from the Chinese government being treating its people like shit, why are they building it? Well, the things you can do with this thing are going to be pretty incredible. It's going to be massive. You can hunt for alien life forms, Dave. You can explore the universe in greater detail. And that's basically it. So, looking at pictures of this thing under construction, if this picture is actually the one that we're talking about here, it's so massive. It's incredible.
Right.
I mean, we're talking, how many feet across is it? It tells us here. This thing is going to be something
basically like a stadium. I mean, when you see it from the sky, it's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a $184 million project, 1,640 feet wide. Yeah. And as far as displacement goes, like I said, the 9,000 people is actually pretty small when it comes to China.
Sure.
In 2010, 300,000 people were moved for the uprooted for the Three Gorges Dam, and over 1 million for the 2008 Beijing Olympics. And since the 70s, according to this article, an estimated 40 million people have been displaced because of public works projects or infrastructure initiatives in China. And that's a lot of people. Sometimes they will put you in a new home.
Right.
It will usually be the size of your bathroom. It'll be made out of concrete and have no plumbing of any sort.
Well, nothing's perfect, Lewis. I mean, come on.
Thank you, China. Wonderful stuff.
I have a great China story from a friend of mine, but I'll tell it. I'll let you do the third story, and then I'll tell it real quick.
No, just go ahead. Go ahead.
Should I just tell it now?
Yeah.
A couple that I know that is, they're Jewish. They don't really eat kosher, but they try to avoid the things that are sort of like you're really not supposed to have. So like pork and shellfish, I guess they try to avoid. And they like to travel. And so when they travel, they basically just go vegetarian because they just find that it's easier rather than explaining like, well, I do eat chicken, but I don't eat pork, but I wouldn't eat the chicken. I don't know if you're not supposed to eat certain parts of the chicken if you're kosher, whatever. They wanted to go to China. They go to China. At the airport, they find someone they have like a translating service. So they say, listen, here's what we need. We need to be able to explain that we basically just want to be vegetarian, but that it's okay if there's like chicken broth, if that's the only way that we can have it, because there's a lot of soups in China, whatever. So they got someone to translate it all on a piece of paper with the Chinese characters so that they could just go into a restaurant and show this piece of paper to whoever is going to be helping them out. So they're traveling through the Chinese countryside, and it's just a beautiful experience, Lewis. And they arrive in a very small town that has like a couple restaurants, and they go in, and there's one of these, I guess it's somewhat common, where it sort of looks like when you go to Ming's here, where there's like a bar, a hot food bar with different things there, and there's a bunch of stock pots, and you can choose whatever you want. And 65-year-old-ish woman runs the place, great person, wants to help them out, whatever. They show her the piece of paper. She says, it's made clear she understands. She starts pointing at these little bins. She's going to make them a custom soup, right? What do you want in the soup? It's going to be vegetarian. No meat. It's going to be fantastic. Do you want the carrots? Yes, we want the carrots. Do you want the celery? Yes, we want the celery. Going through all these things. They have all these great vegetables, and they've got yuca or whatever, right? I mean, it's going to be a fantastic vegetarian soup. And then do you want rice, or would you rather pasta or whatever? It's all great. And as they're doing this, she's sort of like putting it into a stock pot, which they assume is like an empty pot, and she's going to make the soup from scratch. And after going through this for like 10 or 15 minutes, okay, and they're figuring out what do they want, what don't they want, they realize the stock pot already is sort of boiling and there's something in the stock pot, right? And then they say, no meat, like what's in the soup, what's in the broth, doesn't understand the broth, blah, 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 blah. Eventually they communicate, how do you make the water for the soup? And then she says, I put the pig's head in, and it basically boils for 10 hours, and then I take the pig's head out. And then obviously the entire thing fell apart, and the woman felt terribly. She started literally, and I don't exaggerate, taking the vegetables out and washing each of the vegetables individually. And at that point it was like, should we really even eat these? They kind of do have pork. Anyway, it seems like it was an experience, a real countryside of China experience, which does sound fascinating to me. I mean, the Chinese countryside seems very, very interesting.
Oh, yeah. That's the only part of China I want to see. And I feel like you are, depending on the country you go to,
yeah, you
are really going to have a really hard time if you are a vegetarian.
Yeah.
But hey, you got to do what you got to do, I guess.
Absolutely.
That's how it goes. There's a $50,000 reward being offered for a lost time capsule from 1970. And it was, I guess, in stone somewhere in a foundation stone at Singapore's National Stadium, put there in 1970. But the stadium has since been torn down, but nobody knows where this thing is. And it's, I don't know why it's very unusual for there to be such a large reward offered for a time capsule. When asked about the time capsule, they said that there's just some newspaper clippings, blueprints, sports memorabilia, and local currency. But why would it be worth so much to them? They've already spent at least $100,000 looking for it and are offering $50,000 for it. I mean,
It could be of significant symbolic value, right? I do often wonder when you bury these time capsules, how things can shift and sort of there could be. I just always assume, isn't there a risk that you're never going to find this thing?
Well, yeah, this one, I guess the idea is that you are putting it somewhere where you will be able to find it.
Right.
It's clearly designated. It's written down. It's noted where it is. You have to keep that information available. But they tore down the whole stadium and couldn't find it. I mean, it sounds like someone just stole it.
Yeah. Yeah, I've always wondered about why not just put it in like a bank deposit box or something, and then you know exactly where it is. I don't know.
Something about the novelty of burying it.
Didn't we do time capsules like in middle school where we were supposed to put stuff in there? I have no idea what happened to those. I mean, I'd be sort of curious.
Yeah, I put something in one. I don't know what it was.
Yeah, I don't remember.
But we did that, and I don't know when it was supposed to be dug up. I remember almost nothing about it other than it happened.
Yeah.
And I think there's probably a good chance that until it is dug up for some reason other than digging up a time capsule, it will never be found. It may have already, I don't know, may decompose and break down by the time anyone even would do that.
Really? I mean, aren't they usually put in metal?
Yeah, but was ours?
I think so. Who knows?
I don't know.
I've been thinking of looking for, speaking of time capsule, my old basketball cards that I used to collect. And I can only imagine some of them are probably worth a bunch of money at this point. I mean, when I was a kid, it would always be like, okay, yeah, if I wait 15 years, this thing might be worth a couple $100, blah, blah, blah. But the idea of doing that seemed crazy. I've completely forgotten about these basketball cards. And now I have like a lot of relatively rare Michael Jordan cards somewhere. They might be in my mom's attic. I should really review what I have, right? I mean, it's a sort of time capsule in a sense of what I was. How did I categorize these things when I was 10? Did it make sense? Does it not make sense? I'd be fascinated to see.
Yeah, it was probably the bowls in one box and everything else in another.
Maybe
that's how you categorize it. But you should definitely look into that. There could be some value there.
Absolutely.
All right, we're done.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.